To the party. Here we are, the official live of the century. We're getting ready for the month of Elul again. As they say, the month of Elul in the Hebrew Jewish calendar is the last month of the year. And it's a time of divine mercy, where it says the King, the creator of the universe, is in the fields, out with the people, with everyone. Usually the king is in his palace, exclusive, inaccessible to anyone else. Only certain officers can go meet the king, usually only with permission, etc., with a lot of conditions. But during the month of Elul, the last month of the year, it's explained in the Hasidic philosophy that the king is in the field. Meaning like it's like a king who is coming back from a trip, and on his way back to the palace, he stops by to greet the people on the field, and he greets everyone with a smiling face and accepts everyone. That.
Hey, shalom, shalom.
What's up, Hanifia? I say your name right?
Yeah, well, you can just call me Hanif.
Okay, cool. Nice to see you again. It's been a while. A whole like 12 hours about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, good to have you again. Yeah, for those who are just joining us, for like the one viewer who's watching, we had a panel earlier. It was hard to really talk to anyone specifically though, because everyone was like interrupting each other. But that's why I kind of ended it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wait, so what do you think about the proposal?
About me coming up on your live to talk about the Talmud?
Well, it's not my live. We would have to designate another live that's professional and like.
How about this live?
Sanctioned.
I did this live so I can record it and upload it to YouTube. If you're so I don't know. I like just doing that.
Yeah, no, that would actually work better.
Yeah, if you could invite him here, bring him here. Let me know when, and yeah, basically.
Okay.
I'd be happy to answer any questions anyone has. I mean, I might not know the answer, but I could answer. At least I could say I don't know. I mean, I know some things, one or two things, you know.
Well, I think the goal is to establish that the rabbinical interpretation of specific scripture in the Old Testament is more authoritative than a retrospective misinterpretation from Christendom, right? So, I mean, you know, I just find it like we have situations where we'll have someone who's so arrogant as to tell a Torah student that they don't know their own language, right? So it's like you're speaking to a fluent Hebrew speaker. How can you say that this does not mean this and it means something else, right?
Yeah, I hear it's kind of frustrating when that happens, but yeah.
Yeah, so these are things that I think if we can get them out in the open, because a lot of these discussions take place without somebody to represent the Torah, and I think that's not fair. That's not fair to you guys in the first place. You know, the conversations in that arena usually end with, "Well, the Jews don't know what they're talking about." It's like, I beg your pardon, like. You know, if you're saying that you believe in Moses and Abraham and these other prophets, those are their authoritative patriarchs. Your patriarch is Pope Dionysius of Rome. Who is he, right? Compared to Moses. So, you know, we just need to like get a reality check, right?
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. So yeah, let me know when anyone has questions. I accidentally muted someone by mistake. Anyway, yeah, just muted. Okay, yeah, just pressing buttons. Anyway, yeah. So yeah, let me know if you have any questions, or if anyone who you know has questions.
Okay.
Like, were you coming in? What perspective, if I may ask, were you coming from? I wasn't sure in the earlier live we had if you were like coming from the Islam or the Christian perspective. I wasn't sure if you want to say it.
Well, I'm Muslim.
Okay.
So you know, I mean, of course, we have our own criticisms, but But when it comes down to it, we have something called Tawheed, right? We believe in the God of Abraham, and so any disputes beyond that, I think, are tertiary, because as long as you claim the God of Abraham, you know, I think that God Himself, Hashem, will sort the rest of that out when the time comes, right?
Yeah, I guess probably.
Yeah. So, you know, I find it, you know, to try to debate a monotheist, uh, I just think that's pointless, right? But if there's a debate that's going to happen, I think that a pagan, Trinitarian, would be, you know, a more useful form of constructive, you know, use of time. So
It could be. I mean, yeah, it depends. Constructive is the key word. I mean, it depends if they're gonna who's gonna listen and like who's gonna like what effect it's gonna have, etc.
I'm talking with another guy right now that has a following, but we know that his credibility is you know, is not there, but other people seem to think that he has credibility. But you know, he's respectful, from what I've seen, right? And I'm not going to bring somebody to you. I have more respect than that. I'm not going to bring somebody to have a discussion who's going to, you know, step out of line, so to speak. And the discussion would be about specific, you know, specific topics that would be, you know, that would be, you know, available for review before the actual discussion takes place, right?
Okay, sure.
Yeah. So, okay. Well, that's good. I won't take up any more of your time. I'll reach out when I can get kind of like a, you know, a window of when this other guy can meet to talk, and then we can just arrange like a day during the weekend or something like that.
Whatever you want. Yeah, I mean, you could stay now if you wanted to talk about anything else, but yeah, it's your country. But yeah, it's kind of big. Yeah, it's all good.
Yeah, I can't think of anything right off the top of my head. I've been on here all day, so my brain is fried right now. Yeah.
Right. So, it happens to the best of us.
Yeah. You're up in Brooklyn?
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to go to school up there. I was over near Crown Heights.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Like college, high school, I guess.
College. Yeah. So okay, I'll be in touch over the messages, and then we can go from there.
Yeah, sure. Sounds good.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Anytime.
Okay.
In the meantime, we could possibly continue what we were talking about, hypothetically. Or in the meantime, I could just dub this other audio of someone talking, which could be cool. Here, anyone who's just joining, feel free to come up on the panel, so we could continue any discussion about stuff. In the meantime, let's see what we're going to talk about. Actually, I haven't decided yet. For buffer stuff, filler stuff. We could talk about today's Tanya. It says in on Chabad.org. It says the whole point of the Tanya nowadays is talking about the commandment of tzedakah, giving what's translated commonly as charity, but it's not necessarily charity. What tzedakah means is righteousness. It says when someone gives money to people who are poor in need, it's not really like charity. When people say charity, they think that someone's giving their own hard-earned money that they made themselves with their own strength, and they're going out of their way to do something that really they shouldn't really be doing, like giving money to someone in need who doesn't really deserve it. So it's like someone feels like the word charity is like they're doing something they don't really need to do. The money that they have is really their own money that they made from themselves. But really, righteousness, the translation of tzedakah is righteousness, is that the Creator himself is the one who decided how much money people should have. And even if things are earned through like someone's work, etc., the only possibility that the person has to make money is only because the Creator decided that they should have the money that they have, and the Creator is the one who gives them the strength to continue to exist and the strength to work, etc., and the opportunities. So everything that someone has is from the Creator. So when the Creator himself gives people money on the condition that they give like at least 10% to those in need, basically. So that's one of the commandments that applies both to Jews and to Gentiles. It's considered one of the extensions of the 7 laws of Noah that apply to all of humanity is to give tzedakah. And for those of you who don't know, there's a concept called the 7 laws of Noah, the 7 commandments. People think that there's 10 commandments for humanity, but no. There's 613 commandments for the Jewish people that the Creator gave in the Torah. But at Mount Sinai, the Creator also told Moshe to instruct all of the other nations of the world regarding 7 commandments, not 10, but 7 commandments, called the 7 commandments of Noah. So anyone who doesn't know about them, pun intended, should look them up, and there's a lot of resources online about them. And yeah, basically the basics of the law is just to, first of all, not to worship idols, not to worship multiple gods, or etc., just to know that there's one God for the whole world. And then also not to blasphemize the God, not to steal, not to murder people for TikTok language, and certain other morality laws regarding forbidden marriages, like only a man marrying a woman that's not directly related to them, and not eating a limb from a living animal. Back in the day, people used to eat limbs from animals while they're still alive. They used to like rip off the limbs from the animal while they're alive and eat them, which like animal cruelty. So one should not do that. They could eat meat. Meat is fine, totally fine, but just make sure the animal was slaughtered or killed in some way first. And then also the last one is to establish courts of justice to enforce the other laws. And the foundation of the laws should not be because they're logical, but because the Creator of the universe commanded Moses at Mount Sinai regarding these mitzvahs. And then it says once someone does these mitzvahs because the Creator commanded Moses at Mount Sinai, then they're considered a righteous person amongst the Gentile nations, and they also have a portion in the world to come, etc. So a lot of good things happen, but the main thing is just because the Creator commanded it. Anyway, that's the 7 laws of Noah, and those are all commandments that the Creator tells people not to do. But within that, there's also some commandments that are like extra extensions that are mentioned in the Talmud regarding things that the Creator told people to do. And one of those things it mentions is the commandment of tzedakah, righteousness, sometimes translated as charity, but it's not really an accurate translation, as we just said. But the point is to give to people in need. And it says that was one of the main reasons why the cities of Sodom, or Sodom, as some people say in English, and Amorah, or Gomorrah, for whatever reason they say it, were destroyed. Because they were pretty wicked people, because they only had this philosophy that what's mine is mine, what's yours is yours, and they didn't have any concept of giving to those in need, basically. And that was one of the main reasons why they were destroyed. So the point is that it's one of the commandments that applies to everyone, essentially. And today's Tanya on Chabad.org talks about the idea of giving to those in need in a similar way to the way someone takes care of one's own household. It says that even though in general, like one's family comes first, etc., but it says that's just because that's what the Torah decrees. It's like a decree that's kind of like beyond logic, etc. It's a decree of the Torah that one's own household would come before other people. But technically, it says when someone gives tzedakah, it says they should do it so in a totally selfless manner, in a similar way to how one sustains one's own households, basically. So that's the basic 5-second version, plus all the other introductions to today's Tanya. So yeah, I mean, let me know if you guys want to join as a guest, because I'm kind of running out of things to talk about. But you know, it's all good, essentially. Here, let's see if here. In the meantime, maybe I'll just like dub some audio from someone to be entertaining, because I'm not sure if anyone's actually watching, but it's all good. Here we go. I'm going on this app called ashrenu.app, and this is a website that I can't see it, but it's a website that was made to like have talks of the Lubavitcher Rebbe in audio format for people to listen to, and sometimes the Rebbe would gather together children in a rally where they would gather, and he would like tell them, tell the children teach certain teachings of the Torah. And there was like one person named Baruch Hecht, I think his name was Hecht, something Hecht, and he would like, translate the talks into English. Okay, welcome back. We got disconnected for a little while, but now we have some people as a guest, so that's good. Hey, welcome back. Welcome to the first time. What's up? Are you guys waiting for a long time? Sorry, I just got disconnected.
Nah, I just joined.
Oh, nice. That's cool. Yeah, I was talking. Internet went out. Now it's back on. Welcome.
Yeah, how you doing?
Good.
Yeah.
I think I have an echo. I can't remember when I met you guys. If I met you guys before, you look familiar, but I can't remember when.
Hey, how far is Jerusalem here from here?
What was that? I don't know. I didn't get what you said. What did you say?
How far is Jerusalem from here?
From where?
Florida.
From Florida? Pretty far, dude. I don't know, 2,000 miles.
Oh, pretty far.
2,316 miles.
Yeah. So don't try walking. I wouldn't recommend. Long swim.
Nah, I need to do some animal sacrificing like back then for my sins.
Okay. Well, what did you talk about? Chris, did you talk before? Chris, did we talk before? I don't know. Anyway, JG.
No.
Your
No,
audio
I think hold on. I think we thought this morning. I just got off work.
Okay, nice.
So
Your audio is like freaking out. I'm not sure. You're gonna have to text me
Damn.
later when your audio
Hey,
is
I'm
fixed.
gonna hop.
Okay, you can join later.
Yeah, I'm gonna hop down.
All right, sorry about that. You can come later if you want. Just the audio is messed up. Hi, welcome. Speak easy.
Yeah, what's up?
What's up?
Long time to see. And JG, what's up? Have you met JG before? I'm not sure when.
Yeah.
Nice. Do you remember when we met? When we met?
Yeah, some live on they were talking about like Palestine, and there's the Israel guy that was there. He's like a troop that was there. Yeah. But they were all like trying to chastise him and act as if he was evil. So I was the one that was like, I was talking shit to him. I don't care.
Interesting.
Not to him, but to the other side.
Yeah. I'm not so familiar with that. I guess. Yeah, so welcome everyone. I wasn't sure what you guys wanted. I was just like, I guess he left. Not sure if that's about. So, it's been a couple of days. Plus thanks. So yeah, welcome. Yes. Is there anything you want to talk about, or just in general? Hang out?
I was just looking at this week's Parsha.
Oh, nice. The Shoftim, the judges. Now, this is one of the sources for the Talmud and the Torah. Very close.
Oh, I didn't mean Haftarah. I mean this week's Parsha.
Yeah, the parsha, the shoftim, right? About the judges.
Yes, the 15.
Yeah. So yeah, it's interesting. So the judges. Yeah. Well, what did you get? What is something you wanted to? That you learned today about it? That stood out to you?
Yeah, I mean, what really stood out was Devarim 12:21. It says, "And you shall slaughter your animals as I command you." And I guess some people,
Deuteronomy 12, you said? Deuteronomy 12?
yeah, Devarim
Okay.
12.
I think that was a couple parts ago. Okay, let me look at it.
Wait, I thought that was the parsha that we had this Shabbat, this past Shabbat.
Ray, probably. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Okay, cool. Yeah. I'll look at that. 12:22, you said?
21, I believe, is where it says, "And you shall slaughter these animals in how I command you."
Yeah. That's like what we're talking about. If the place the Lord your God chooses to put his name there will be distant from you, no slaughter of your cattle and of your sheep, which the Lord has given you as I've commanded you. Yes, and you may eat in the cities. So that source is the source for one of the sources for the Talmud, as I have commanded you. Yeah.
But didn't you make the argument that a few verses earlier, verses 15 and 16, that's the commandment right there?
Let's see here, 15 and 16. However, in every desire of your soul you may slaughter and eat meat in all your cities, according to the blessing of the Lord your God, which he gave you. The unclean and the clean may eat thereof, as of the deer and as of the gazelle. And 16. However, you shall not eat the blood, you shall spill it on the ground like water. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it says to spill the blood on the ground, but it doesn't say how to actually slaughter it. If it has to be from the neck, from the stomach. I mean, it says that the blood should hit the ground, but it doesn't say what about the actual slaughter itself.
I mean, I can see that point, but I mean, even when it comes to temple sacrifices or sacrificing at the altar, wasn't the commandment to spill the blood at the base of the tent of meeting and the altar as well?
The base of the tent of meeting. Not sure about that. I mean, there was a lot of commandments about putting the blood on different parts of the altar, including the base of the altar. But that's sacrificial meat, so they had different laws, but they still had to be slaughtered a specific way on the neck, specifically on the bottom part of the neck, and they had to cut more than half of the esophagus and the windpipe, which is part of the details that it was only mentioned in the Talmud. It says, the slaughtering of the animals, they do it every day in the temple. They couldn't just like take an axe and cut the animal in half. Like they couldn't just like rip up the animal how they wanted. There was a very specific way how they slaughtered the animal in the temple times, and that was according to the oral law.
Yeah, I get that. I myself, as you know, don't adhere to Torah Shabbat. Not knocking anybody who does, but when I read it, it's like, oh, it's clear as day. The blood has to spill on the ground. That's like the requirement.
Yeah, no, it says something. Rashi talks about that's the commandment of Kisoi Hadam, covering the blood with dirt. That's only if it's on the ground. But saying it doesn't explain how to actually slaughter the animal itself. It just says what to do after it's slaughtered.
So theoretically, like, let's just say, like, I could just grab the brain, the brain dart that they use on cattle, just knock it out, and once it's KO'd and the butchering process begins, as long as the blood hits the ground, that should still be A-OK and kosher, right?
Definitely not kosher. I mean, it's okay for Gentiles to eat it, but definitely not. That would not pass as kosher. The entire meat would be forbidden, just the same as meat of a pig, if it's not slaughtered correctly.
Well, I mean, pig ultimately isn't kosher altogether, but
yeah.
So I guess my question would be, how did the Rabbanim come up with the conclusion that the animal had to be slaughtered in a specific way?
So there's different kinds of oral law. Some kinds were decided by the court of the rabbis, which is actually this week's parsha, the parsha Shoftim, Deuteronomy 16. We could get to that. We could get to that soon. But other laws, a large portion of other laws, were just given by the Creator to Moshe himself directly, and those laws there's no dispute about. So certain things the Creator just told him, literally, like he told him to write the verses in the Torah, and he also told him to the explanation of the verses at the same time in some cases.
Yeah. I agree to disagree, but you
Wait.
said we're moving on to 16. I just
Yeah,
got my
16 verse 18 and onwards is where it talks about the other part of the Or law, which is the decisions that are made by the court. So some things that were given to Moses directly, but then some things the Creator said he's going to leave it up to this court to decide what the law is. Meaning, like if some things are like kind of not so clear in the Torah, but the Creator like gave different valid options to Moshe of what they could be, and he said, okay, achrei haro, like go achrei rabim l'hatel, like go after the majority, and you should decide like based on this court's decision, this court of 70 elders that it talks about of the Sanhedrin. And this week's parsha, Deuteronomy 16, chapter verse 18 and onward, which is this week's parsha, talks exactly about that. Actually, was it? Yeah. It's here, but I'm trying to find where exactly it is. Actually, it might be 17. Let me actually verify where it is exactly.
I'm on 16 and 20. You're right. 16.
That's the beginning of the sixth parsha. That's the beginning of the passage it talks about, but the actual thing I was thinking of is actually 17 verse 8. But the parsha starts in 16, 18. But the part that I was thinking of just now is 17, 8. I just realized.
Oh. I'm just going to read the first part that you mentioned.
Yeah, because that's the part that's like the beginning of the whole passage, and the rest of it is a continuation. But yeah, I'm going to read also. Shov team the show dream. Judges and law enforcement officers, you shall appoint for yourselves in all of your cities that the Lord your God is giving you for your tribes, and they shall judge the people with righteous judgments. Basically.
Love how he's just like, you shall be impartial, you shall not take bribes.
Yeah, there's a little log for what a judge needs to do. The first commandment is to make judges, and afterwards it talks about what the judges should do.
You shall not set up a sacred post any kind of hill beside the altar of the Lord your God that you may make, or erect a stone pillar, for such the Lord your God detests. I mean, that's pretty fair.
Yeah, definitely.
You shall not sacrifice to the Lord your God an ox or a sheep that has any defect of a serious kind, for that is abhorrent to the Lord your God. If there is found in one of the settlements that the Lord your God is giving you, a man or a woman who has affronted the Lord your God and has transgressed his covenant, turning to the worship of their gods and bowing down to them, to the sun or the moon or of any heavenly host, something I've never commanded, and you have been informed or have learned of it, then you shall make a thorough inquiry. If it is true, the fact is established, the abhorrent thing was perpetrated in Israel, you shall take the man or the woman who did that wicked thing out to the public place, and you shall stone them, man or woman, to death. A person shall be put to death only on the testimony of 2 or more witnesses. He must not be put to death on the testimony of a single witness. Let the hands of the witnesses be the first against him to put him to death, and the hands of the rest of the people thereafter. Thus you will sweep out evil from your midst. Pretty heavy stuff.
Pretty heavy stuff, yeah.
Why would you think that God would want the people accusing the person to be the first to throw stones against them?
Let me see the verse. Which verse is that specifically?
Verse 7.
17:7.
17:7, yeah.
The hand of the witness. What is it talking about? What is this talking about? This evil thing. What evil thing is it talking about?
I'm not saying evil.
Do not sacrifice to your God an ox or sheep that has a blemish or any bad thing, for that is an abomination. If there will be found among you, with it in one of your cities, a man or woman who does evil in the eyes of the Lord, and who will worship other gods and prostrate himself before them, or the sun or the moon, or any host of the heavens which I have not commanded, and it will be told to you, and you will hear it and investigate it thoroughly, and behold, the matter is conceived. This abomination has been perpetuated. So it's talking about idol worship. A Jewish person who worships idols, bows down to idols. Then you shall bring out that man or that woman who has committed this evil thing to your city as a man or the woman, and you shall pelt them with stones, and they shall be unalived. Yeah. So that's the commandment against not worshiping foreign gods, not worshiping idols, which is one of the 3 commandments that says one should never do, even if someone threatens one's life. One should never give in to it, basically. Yeah. So what's the question?
Oh, no, I'm talking about verse 7 and 17. My question is... by the mouth of 2 witnesses or 3 witnesses shall one be liable to be unalived, he shall be not put... Okay, the hand of the witnesses shall be first upon him to make him unalived, and afterwards the hand of all the people, and you shall abolish evil from among you. Yeah. So let's talk about the witnesses are the ones who actually carry out the capital punishment. The witnesses who are testifying that they did it are ideally the ones to start doing it. But why would God want it that way?
As opposed to what?
As opposed to just the community as a whole, just grabbing stones and just doing the deed.
Oh, why did the witnesses start out doing it? Doesn't say. I don't know, it doesn't say. I mean, it doesn't say. I always thought because they were the ones who are actually like the cause for why it's happening, so they should be. I mean, if they were fake witnesses, then some people usually they're willing to lie in court, but then when it comes to actually unaliving someone with their hands, people are less likely to do it if they're lying. So I don't know. I always thought that the reason was just to encourage them not to lie, because if they're telling the truth, then they should have no problem actually doing it with their hands. I don't know. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
I don't think it says though why, but that's what logically. I don't know.
Human nature isn't so virtuous.
What was that?
Human nature isn't so virtuous.
Not so virtuous. What do you mean?
Oh, I'm sure somebody probably lied and just went through with it anyway, just to remove a rival or...
Yeah, there are people who are willing to lie and be that evil, but they're saying it would be a lot harder to lie if someone knew that they actually had to, that they would actually have to physically do the act. Again, people could be really evil and do it anyway, but I don't know. That's just what I thought. It doesn't say the reason. Hi, welcome, Daniel.
Shalom, y'all.
Shalom, hello. It's been a while. It's been a few hours already. Long time. So yeah, welcome to the party. Is there anything you wanted to talk about besides just what we're talking about, the random stuff?
What was the topic again?
What was that?
I said, what was the topic or discussion again?
Oh, well, right now we're talking about Deuteronomy 17, and we're talking about the commandments that the Creator gave people to establish judges and officers in their cities to enforce the laws of the Torah. And then we were just talking about one of the laws that says that if there's 2 witnesses that testify to someone worshiping idols, the witnesses are the actual ones who do the act of unaliving. It's capital punishment to worship idols, but the witnesses are the ones who physically with their own hands start stoning the people directly. So we were just talking about that and why that would happen. That's what we just left off, basically.
Okay. I mean, is that something that's still enforced today?
Not the capital punishment. No, according to the Talmud, that only applies when they have a great court of rabbis sitting in the temple in Jerusalem, which we don't have anymore.
That's good old.
I guess I would ask you, would that be breaking Torah?
Would that be what?
Would that be breaking Torah if we're instructed to do it, but we can't? I mean, not more so can't, but we don't do it based on what the new thing says.
Well, no. So the Torah says to only do it if we're in Jerusalem at the court. I mean, the Talmud, which is the Torah, also tells us that the law only applies when we're actually in Jerusalem and we have the court of 70 judges sitting in the temple, and only at that time is capital punishment or the stoning. Only then does it apply.
Well, in the Torah itself, in verse 4, actually, of chapter 17, it says, and I quote, "And you have been informed or have learned of it, then you shall make a thorough inquiry. If it is true, the fact is established that a poor thing was perpetrated in Israel." So the verse is pretty much saying, if it's in Israel and this happened and it's proven to have been a fact, you can go ahead and do it.
Well, in Israel, meaning like in the Jewish people of Israel,
I
but
mean,
not the land of Israel.
I'm just going to add it to goodness.
Yeah, but this week's parsha, right, the passage right after that, 17:8, is one of the main sources for how we know to listen to the rabbis, the Talmud, essentially, because it talks about if there's any doubt of any matter, one should always go to the great court in Jerusalem, the Sanhedrin, and listen to everything they say. And the rabbis of the Talmud are just a direct extension of the Sanhedrin. I mean, one of the last people of the Sanhedrin was Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, which was one of the first rabbis of the Talmud. And the Talmud is just an extension of the Sanhedrin, essentially. So that's like one of the main commandments in the Torah itself that references the Talmud, basically, from verse 8 and onwards.
I mean, I see your point. I'm still not entirely sold.
I mean, like in the terms of Karaite Judaism, do they have the commandment of appointing judges and officers? Or like, do they believe the Sanhedrin existed, etc.?
Yeah, we believe that it was a necessity to have the Sanhedrin because God dictated it. God commanded it. Obviously, we had elders, magistrates, we had courts of justice, as is commanded by God.
Do you still have the concept of a base din in Karaite Judaism?
We do.
Interesting. I did not know that. What kind of what kind of qualifications would like a judge be? Just like anyone could be like a judge, or?
I don't have that answer, to be honest with you.
Interesting. No, I'd be curious.
I want to.
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
To be honest, I don't know what the qualifications are. Maybe they're selected by the community. Maybe it's the Chachamim.
Interesting. So, do you agree with the Sanhedrin, but you don't agree with like Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, etc.?
I think that there's a difference between a written Torah and Torah Shebal Peh. Torah
Yeah, but like
Shebal.
Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, for example, was part of the Sanhedrin, and then he was one of the first rabbis of the Talmud to make up the Talmud. So, do you guys not agree with him, but you agree with the other people before him, or whatever?
We don't agree with him whatsoever.
Okay, so you don't agree that he was part of the Sanhedrin?
No, we
Single.
like. If he was part of the Sanhedrin, I'll take your word he was part of the Sanhedrin. I just don't know him personally, or I can't. Well, the other part is I can't make a valid decision ultimately with that. What I know is that there is the written Torah, and then there's Torah Shebal Peh. And if this guy was one of the founders of the Talmud, that's still Torah Shebal Peh, and that's something that we avoid.
Okay. I hear.
If
Yeah,
that
we
makes
can-
sense.
No, I hear what you're saying. We're just discussing, like, I was trying to understand the view. So, like, if they accepted the Sanhedrin at the time, but then at a certain point they said, we're not accepting the Sanhedrin anymore, or I just didn't, whatever.
Well, I mean, if you look at other parts of Devarim, for example, like Devarim 4:2, you shall not deviate from the law, you shall not turn right or left from the law.
Yeah.
And then obviously we do have like what was written at Har Sinai, because it does say in multiple places in Shemot and Vayikra and in Devarim, where God has instructed Moses to write down these laws and get to Bnei Israel. So, we don't have an actual written part anywhere within the written law of oral Torah that was given as well. So we think the oral Torah came later, after Har Sinai.
When did it come? If I may ask.
Around 200 BCE.
200 BC. Oh, so after Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, after like Rabbi Akiva, etc.
Correct.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, we can talk about it later, I guess, but whatever you want. But no, they were part of the usually, technically, whatever.
I mean, you want me to be honest with you? I'm being honest with you. That's kind of like the Karaite mindset.
Honesty happens to the best of us. But yeah. Was there anything to say, Daniel, or add, or questions about anything?
Yeah, I was gonna ask, like on a Sabbath day. I think I probably asked you this already, if I'm not mistaken. But on a Sabbath day, if like your brother's ox is stuck in a ditch or something, do you still supposed to help him?
It depends. I didn't look up the law. I did a lot, actually. I mean, according to the Talmud, I think it's debatable. I'm pretty sure if it's not a life or death situation, I don't think that you do. But let me find it. Can't find it. I have a phone. I have like 20 phones. Can't find it. I'm pretty sure that, there's a concept that if animals in pain, then in certain cases, you're allowed to take the animal out of its pain. But if it's not in pain, and if it could wait till after the Sabbath, then generally we don't. And generally speaking, we don't break the Sabbath to save the life of an animal. Again, unless it's like in active pain. But if it's not in pain, then it's more lenient. Let me look it up, the law.
But isn't saving a life one of the most important things? Like in the, I guess.
Saving a human life is important, but not animal life. Animals are not that important.
But don't the Torah tells us to regard the life of our beast?
Yeah, we can regard the life in some way, but it's not such an animal life is not that important. It's important to not cause pain to an animal and to somewhat respect it, but doesn't have such importance.
But I guess would we be breaking law if we don't help? Because we're instructed to actually do it.
I'm looking it up right now.
Exodus 23, 4 through 5. Shemot 23, 4 through 5.
It's like if you say the donkey of your enemy on the road, right? So this is?
Yeah. I think that's the verse.
I don't think that applies on Shabbat, though. Pretty sure it doesn't.
I think one I was referencing is in Deuteronomy 22:4, like the commandment to do so. And I was just wondering, like, is that on the Sabbath as well? Because the moral aspect I get from, like, what the priest was allowed to do, like, he had to gather wood and keep a continual fire going, even on the Sabbath, is more so that, it's not a bad thing to do a good deed on the Sabbath.
It says that one can, according to Mishnah Berurah 332, 6, it says one is not allowed to break any laws of Sabbath to save the life of the animal, but one could ask a non-Jew to do it, because only the Jewish people are commanded to keep the Sabbath, but non-Jews do not have to keep the Sabbath. So one can tell another Gentile, say, hey, look, help that animal. But a Jew himself is not allowed to do it.
Okay, but does it goes in detail with the if it's life is at stake or anything like that?
Animal life is not considered legitimate life in this case. Animal life is different.
Okay, so what if your brother loses his ox, and it was kind of like important to his like livestock or his financial situation? Do you then replace it?
On the Sabbath, so there's no monetary situation that would ever allow breaking the Sabbath.
Yeah, not a monetary situation on the Sabbath, but do you replace his ox? Like, I guess it would be after the Sabbath.
After the Sabbath, there's no problem. You can do anything you want after the Sabbath.
Okay.
But I thought in the camp, though, the law was supposed to be for the Israelite and the sojourner.
Which can mean a lot of different things. But yeah, I mean, the Sabbath does not apply to non-Jews. It only applies to Jews. The sojourner or the foreigner usually refers to a convert, usually, but I have to look at the context to see what it's referring to. But someone who's not a convert just is not obligated to keep the Sabbath at all.
So if they convert to being a Jew, like, do they not have to keep the Sabbath?
No, if someone converts to Judaism, then they're considered a full Jew, 100%, just like any other Jew, and then they would have to keep the Sabbath. In fact, the Sabbath is one of the main things that we tell converts when they try to convert. We teach them about the Sabbath specifically, because that's one of the main covenants between the Jewish people specifically and the Creator.
Okay. And I guess another question is, was David wrong for taking the showbread or asking for the showbread that was meant for the Levites?
Well, I'm not sure the context of that story. I'm not sure what happened. Hey, what's up, person in the comments? I haven't learned the story of King David in depth that much, so I'm not sure what
Are
happened.
you talking about that verse in 2 Samuel?
Yeah, where they were exhausted or something like that, and they had an old piece of showbread that they was going to replace with another one, and he asked them for the showbread, and they gave it to him, and he ate. And I know a lot of people find issue with it because he wasn't a Levite, and the showbread was meant for the Levites, and it was like a ceremonial bread.
I haven't heard of that. I don't know anything about that story, but generally the showbread was supposed to only be eaten by the priestly class, so probably not. But I have to see the context to really know for sure.
And I'm probably butchering the story the way I'm like paraphrasing.
Yeah, here. Yeah, so honestly, I have no idea. Probably.
Can you find me the verse real quick?
Oh yeah, one second.
Yeah, I really got to learn Samuel and the Book of Kings, etc. I haven't learned it at all. Only a little, but not really that much.
We were required not just Torah, but we had to study the whole rest of the Tanakh as well.
It said
Yeah.
1 Samuel 26.
In the Talmud, one of the obligations is also to study the Tanakh. I just haven't got around to it yet. But yeah.
1 Samuel 26.
I'm sorry, 1 Samuel 21.
What's the chapter though?
21, the 21st chapter.
What verse then? Just the whole chapter?
Well, the verse starts at, I guess, verse 3 on down to 6, but I guess you can get the context from verse 1, since 3 is not the same.
Interesting.
David
Absolutely.
then went his way, and Jonathan returned to the town. David went to the priest
Ahimelech at Nob. Ahimelech came out in alarm to meet David. Why are you alone and no one with you? David answered the priest Ahimelech. The king has ordered me on a mission, and he said to me, no one must know anything about the mission on which I am sending you, and for which I have given you orders. So I have directed my young men to such a place. Now then, what have you got on hand? Any loaves of bread? Let me have them, or whatever is available. The priest answered David, I have no ordinary bread on hand. There's only consecrated bread, provided the young men have kept away from women. In reply to the priest, David said, I assure you that women have been kept from us as always. Whenever I went on a mission, even if the journey was a common one, the vessels of the young men were consecrated. All the more, then may consecrated food be put to their vessels today. So the priest gave him consecrated bread, because there was none there except the bread of display, which had been removed from the presence of the Lord to be replaced by warm bread as soon as it was taken away. I mean, from that verse, it seems like they were like throwing out the bread already. And there was going to be new bread that was going to replace the old bread.
Would that be okay? Like, even though it's still, that's, because I look at situations like, I think it was Azariah, when one of the children of Israel came into the camp with I think a Midianite woman, and she was like a worshiper of Baal, and he took the javelin and spear through both of them to save Israel from pollution. So it was almost like a real strict, I guess, like a real strict enforcement of the law. So I would ask, like, since the bread was being thrown away, cool, but since it was no ordinary bread, is it still okay?
I mean, in that case, if the priest was going to give it to David and he was going to replace it with warm bread anyway, at that point, I wouldn't see what the qualm is. I mean, once it's being replaced, is it still consecrated bread? Is it still the same consecrated bread that was meant to be there for the Lord, to represent all 12 tribes of Israel? I don't have an answer for that. But at the end of...
Yeah, this is one of the things that are discussed in the Torah, like what exactly happens to the sacrificial meat after it's done. And with the bread, I have to look into it, actually. But yeah.
But at this point, after reading that, I just think that if they were going to replace the bread anyway and just give it to David, I would think that that would be okay. It's not like, what's that one artifact that people shouldn't touch in that Indiana Jones movie?
I don't know. I haven't seen it.
Anyway. Daniel, my honest opinion at that point is maybe it's okay.
I have to look up the Talmud and see, actually.
Because I see a situation where Uriah, I believe, the Ark of the Covenant was just about to fall over, and he was kind of like trying to do something good and catch it. And I read that the Most High struck him for it.
Yeah, that was Ula.
Unallowed.
What was the name? Ula, or what was the other? Can't remember his name. It wasn't King David. It was like someone King David sent to get it.
Was it Uriah?
Maybe.
He named the
I don't
city
think it
after
was
him.
Uriah.
I know he named the city after him because he seems like he didn't like what happened.
It says he was just like, I forgot what exactly, but it does mention that he just like left it for a second and then he was struck down because of it. So yeah, it's pretty brutal stuff. I'm pretty sure the showbread is usually just for the priests. I have to verify that though. But yeah, it's a good question.
By the way, Daniel, if we give you different answers, just know we're coming from Judaism in different perspectives. It's the same dish, but we're just different gravy, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. I was gonna ask, what is a like Karaite, or
we're Jews, but we don't believe in the Talmud. We don't believe in the Mishnah. We believe like what's written is written. We don't rely on the oral traditions.
Okay, that's interesting.
So I jokingly like to tell people that we're kind of like caveman Judaism or OG Judaism.
And for me, we believe in the Talmudic Judaism, so we don't believe in them, but we can still talk them some. I think that's good.
So would you be considered, like if you believe in Talmud and Mishnah, would you be considered an Orthodox Jew?
I mean, these labels don't have much meaning. I mean, we believe, in our perspective, that that's just what Judaism is, but other people would disagree. I mean, he would disagree, technically. But whatever, here's what it is.
I refer to people like the host here as Rabbinites, rabbinic Jews, whereas I'm just a Karaite Jew. And Karaite comes from the Hebrew word mikra, which means scripture. So we're like, our official name is B'nai Mikra, which is people of the scripture. But we do often see ourselves as Jews, just like I said, different sides of the same coin.
Okay.
Interesting. And in this week's Parsha, from Deuteronomy 17:8 and onwards is the original source for why we follow the Talmud, because it says to follow this court of 70 judges, which later became the Talmud in the times of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, etc. And it says to listen to everything they say, basically. So yeah, whatever.
Could it be, not to offend or anything, but could it be possible that the way or the things written in the Talmud where the interpretation that some of the leaders gave, could it be kind of wrong? Could it? Like, is it possible?
Some of that, I mean, everything that's mentioned in the Talmud is true. It's just when it comes to law, the practical law is decided by the majority opinion. So when it comes to like different explanations of the law, it says everything that's mentioned are true opinions, but then the practical law follows the majority. So there's different rules for determining like which one of the true opinions to follow practically, but they're all considered true if they're mentioned in the Talmud. Just practically speaking, what the law is determined by the majority, and that's, we believe, how the Creator set it up originally. So it's not like the rabbi is making it for the first time, but the Creator himself told them to decide the law the way that they're deciding it.
I will say one thing. Reading the Talmud, reading the Mishnah, it does make me feel a little smarter. Because it's like people actually articulate how it is that they present their arguments.
Yeah, there's a lot of logical proofs and stuff that are pretty intense.
But, like I said, I don't adhere to Talmud, so...
So I believe, are you familiar where in the Talmud it talks about Yehoshua he was a teacher of Yeshua in Egypt or something like that?
It's debatable if it's mentioned in the Talmud. I think there's some people who say he is mentioned, but other people say it was referring to a different guy. But I think I know what you're talking about. There's one place that says it. I don't know if it was him. I don't know if it mentioned by name, but it says there was like a certain student who like tattooed certain spells and sorcery from Egypt. And I think some people say that that's how he was able to walk on water and stuff, but I'm not sure if there's any source for that.
Okay. Because I think the last thing, because I downloaded a thing called, I guess it's the Jewish library, it's called the Sephria or something like that.
Sepharia, yeah.
Yeah, and it's I was reading through the Talmud, and it was talking about how his teacher pushed him away or something like that because he believed he sinned or something. And what I was going to ask was his teacher wrong in doing that? Like, was he breaking Leviticus 19 and 17 and 18?
What do those verses say again? I forgot.
It tells you to love your neighbor as yourself, and it tells you don't suffer sin upon your neighbor. And there's a difference between like loving and like chastising. So we believe in like in that story. I think it's mentioned in the Talmud and Tractate Sota towards the end. It says that again, some people say it refers to a different person altogether, but some people say it refers to him. So it's debatable what it refers to. But if it does, what were you saying?
No, I just tried to flip chapter 19 verses 16 through 17, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so the way the story goes, regardless of if it was him or someone else, that it was him, and then this other person who was like trying to escape this certain king that was trying to unalive them, and then they were like staying at this inn, and then the innkeeper, who was a married woman, like this student who people say refers to Jay or someone else, he said, the rabbi said, what a beautiful person, and then this student says like, but not so much around the eyes. So it's like he was like looking at her physical appearance, but she was already like a married woman. So then because of that, the rabbi like chastised him and said like, what a sinner and stuff. And then he like pushed him away. And then it says the student tried to come back a lot of different times to apologize. And every time he would come back to apologize, the rabbi would push him away. Until one time, it says the rabbi was going to accept his apology, but he was in the middle of praying. And a certain part of the prayer is not supposed to like respond to anyone. So he just like ignored him because he was in the middle of prayers. But the student who was asking didn't realize that. So then because of that, he says like he like got really mad and then tried to encourage people to worship idols. And that's what some people say refers to Jay doing. But not everyone agrees with it referring to him. Whatever. So it depends who it's referring to. So either it's referring to him or it's referring to someone else. But that's the way the story goes.
Because I do always wonder, like because I do read the New Testament, but I do always wonder, like when it's talking about like, because it seems like he's teaching Torah, but he's teaching different than how the elders and the priests and like all the people who's supposed to like teach Torah, he's kind of like condemning them for how they understand it. So I figured he was like going against Talmud or going against like the oral part of it, and he was being more of a Karaite, like what the scripture like said.
What do you think about that, Speakeasy?
I mean, there were definitely. I mean, I've read the Gospels, and in Mark he does criticize the Pharisees for quote unquote making up their own laws, but I don't think Jesus himself was Karaite-esque per se, because if you actually look at what he's saying, he is actually quoting some of the sages of the Mishnah. Like, some of what he says actually quotes the sages, and I would argue that he's probably more Pharisee, because even he told his disciples to study from them but be not like them, if that makes sense.
Yeah. They said everything they bid you to do, do it, but don't do it like them because they say and do not. And I think he was talking about, because he did mention like he was condemning them because they left out the weightier matters of the law, which is like grace and mercy and justice and stuff like that. And I was thinking about that situation that I read in Talmud, and it's kind of like if they are talking about them, I can see how that would stem that type of, thought process where you're supposed to love me, and especially if I keep coming to you and trying to get forgiveness and you keep pushing me away, then you being my leader, you kind of breaking Leviticus 19, like 16 and 17. So like like you're a sinner yourself. I can see how he can accuse him of like being a sinner in that case.
I mean,
Interesting.
we've all messed up, but as it says in Yeshayahu 55:7, Isaiah 55:7, repent your wicked ways, return unto me, and I will freely pardon.
Yeah. Have you guys ever like not looked into the New Testament, but specifically the things he taught?
Me?
Yeah.
Have.
Either
I'm
one.
I have not.
I mean, I'm not Christian. I don't believe Jesus was the Messiah, but I've definitely read the New Testament.
Because I'm not a Christian either, but I do subscribe to the New Testament until, either I find something different or find out that it's false or anything, like some defining proof. But I look at things like him calling himself the Son of God the same way Israel was called sons of God or was called gods in Psalms. And then I look at Israel being God's firstborn, like it says in Exodus. I forget the chapter, but it says Israel is my firstborn. So I don't think it should have been like that crazy for him to say he's a son of God or a child of God, because I think that's just like a title that Israel was already given, but he was just standing on it like in a different way, different manner. I don't think he was deifying himself, because in the scripture every time, or I say in the New Testament, every time people tried to worship him, he hid himself and he like ran from the crowds to the point it says they wanted to kidnap him and make him a king, but he always like hid himself. So I think Christians kind of misinterpret and they kind of deify him, and I can see how it can throw people off. But I don't know. I just reading the Torah and reading Tanakh and reading the New Testament, and specifically his teachings, I see like they all kind of sync together. But he's teaching more so like I wouldn't call it a spiritual side of it, but I consider it more so like a merciful side of it.
Interesting.
I mean, you remember in Mark where there was that scene where the guy couldn't walk and they had to like level him down from the second floor or the roof because he still couldn't walk. I forgot what condition he had. And when Jesus was healing him, he said, I forgive you for your sins. I mean, we all know that according to the Tanakh, the only one that's only able to forgive us for our sins is God. And all of a sudden you have this guy here just saying, oh, I forgive you for your sins. You can understand, like, if somebody was like Second Temple era Judaism looking at that, they'd be like, "Who the heck are you to do that?"
Yeah, like you crazy guy. But I would say, like, put it in perspective of, like, if I sin against you, do you have the power to forgive me?
Yeah, I can see that. If you know you did me wrong, I have the power to forgive you.
So wouldn't that be the
On
same?
someone else, then it's different.
Huh?
I mean, the commandments of God versus, running your car into my fence. God forbid you ever do that. I think those are two different things altogether. Just as an example.
I got you. I can understand it. Yeah, I just
forgive what someone else did.
Huh?
Like one person can forgive the things that were done to them, but they can't forgive other things. I mean, it's not within their power to like forgive other things the person did that didn't affect them.
I see what you're saying.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but Devarim 24:16, it says, "No father shall be put unaliving for the sins of his son, nor shall the sons be unalived for the sins of their father. For each man's sin is his own." I think sins are more or less just offenses against the Creator, the Most High. Whereas you doing me dirty is just an offense against me.
I hear that. With the Torah, though, sometimes the Torah itself commands us not to harm other people. Like, do not steal. What is that? If you steal from a person, it's really offending both God and the person. Because the Creator is the one who said not to steal.
Don't bear false witness.
Yeah, all those. All these things are the things the Creator said not to do. So if someone's doing them, then they're offending both God and the other person.
Was that the guy you was just talking about? Was it the lame man? Was he couldn't walk and he was sick and all that?
Yeah, I think so.
I was just gonna look it up real quick and try to phrase over it.
All I remember was that he had to be lowered from the roof because his condition was that bad. And then Jesus told him, after he forgave him for his sins, to pick up his bed and walk with it.
I just see a lot of him, like, not enforcing Torah in a way, but he's teaching it. Like in Matthew 5:17, he says he didn't come to destroy the law or nothing like that. Like the people was accusing him, or the Pharisees were accusing him. He said he never came to destroy the law, but to fulfill. And he was talking about the heaven and earth paths. And I know sometimes in Jewish culture, that means the temple, right?
What, heaven and earth?
Yeah.
Not that I know of.
Oh, okay. I was reading one time, and it was talking about how heaven and earth sometimes in Scripture can reference the temple. But he was saying until heaven and earth pass, not one jot or tittle will pass from the law until all be fulfilled. And he went far as saying, whosoever like teach man to break these commandments, and whoever break one of the least commandments, they're going to be called least in the kingdom of heaven. And so he was preaching a lot of the Torah. And I can't see y'all's position too, where it's kind of like he does put himself in that authoritative position to forgive sins and things like that, and it does cause a problem.
Yeah, I mean, the main thing is just, in terms of like at least Talmudic Judaism, like we just like don't believe anything he says. Like, in order for someone to have authority, they have to be appointed by another rabbi, who ultimately there's a chain of rabbis that go back to Moses. Like Moses appointed Joshua, and there's also like the court of 70 judges that were appointed by Moses through the Creator, and those judges can appoint other judges. So like anyone who has any authority in anything, they have to be actually appointed by someone else who was given that authority all the way back to Moses and the Creator. So that's how we look at it. It doesn't matter what he says, but if what he says is not part of the tradition of people who were given the authority to speak about it, then it doesn't have any significance, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. But I would ask, if he claims to come in the order of the Melchizedek priesthood, does he have to be anointed by a Levite?
He can't be anointed by a Levite, though,
Yeah,
because
yeah, I said no. So the priesthood is something that's passed down only biologically through the father's side. Through Aaron, Aharon was Moses' brother, the first priest, and then it was given to Aharon's grandson Pinchas, as it's mentioned in the middle of the book of Numbers. And since it was given to Pinchas, only the sons of Pinchas, who were Jewish, could be a priest. If someone was not born a priest by their father, then they can never become a priest, according to Judaism.
well, that's also Nehemiah, where those two guys were trying to claim priesthood, but they couldn't prove their father's house, so they were disqualified from the priesthood.
I have to learn that. That sounds interesting.
I mean, as you know, we Karaites, we go through the father. And
I should also go through it. I mean, no, according to the Talmud, one of the obligations is to go through the prophets, but people just don't really do it because they're too busy with the Talmud. But it's definitely a good thing to do.
Does it sound like the Talmud caused them to error?
The temple, what was that?
Does it sound like Talmud caused them to error, like in that situation where they should go through the Father, but they don't do it because of the Talmud?
But I mean people like in the modern age, like me and like other people. But I mean, no, it's according to the Talmud, though, one should definitely learn the prophets. Just practically speaking, people don't always do it right away.
No, he was asking like because of the Talmud, rabbinic Jews go through the mother instead of going through the father.
Is that what you're asking, Daniel?
Yeah, like would that be seen as causing them to error since they're not really going through the Father like it says to do, but they're following the Talmud and not the Father?
No, according to the Talmud, no. So there's a difference between the priesthood and Judaism. The priesthood is passed down to the father, but Judaism, if someone is a Jew or not, that's only through the mother, according to the Talmud.
Well, I mean, in Bamidbar, to determine if you are Israelite, it does go through the father, though.
Where does it say that?
Bamidbar 1 and 2, when they were taking the censuses.
And they were counting the Jews, yeah, according to the house. That was saying to count them, but I mean, everyone there in the desert was a Jew, so they were just organizing them by their father's house to say which people are from this tribe, which people are from that tribe. But it didn't say that they're Jewish because of their father. They were Jewish anyway because they were there, but it doesn't say what makes them Jewish. It just says to count them according to their father's house, meaning like just to get the number of each person from each tribe. The tribe comes from the father, but the Judaism comes from the mother. But which tribe someone's from the father.
But, I mean, for us Karaites, we go through the father because of Torah portions like that. But, like I said, we're both different sides of the same coin, and we're both going to look at things differently.
Yeah.
But the ultimate consensus in the Karaite camp is if your father's an Israelite, then you're an Israelite. I mean...
What about Jew? Is there a difference between Jew and Israelite?
I mean, Jews are Israelites, though.
Is it possible for anyone to become not Jewish according to Karaite? Like, not them. I mean...
I'm sorry, could you please repeat the question?
Is it possible for anyone's descendants to ever become not Jewish according to Karaite?
I would argue if they marry women of foreign nations, specific foreign nations, like the Perizzites or the Moabites, because remember, there was the commandment that you shall not marry into specific nations, not anybody who isn't Israelite. Like Moshe married a Midianite woman, and his children were still considered Bnei Israel.
Well, according to the Talmud, she converted to Judaism before he married her. But that was before that was before they went to Mount Sinai anyway. So that was really before the Torah even existed, technically.
He married an Ethiopian as well, right?
Yeah, he married the Cushite woman.
But that was before the Torah was given. So it was different. I mean, the different laws applied once they had the revelation at Mount Sinai after the Jews went out of Egypt. Then it was there was like different laws. Before that, I mean, Jacob married two sisters, which is totally forbidden according to the Torah law. Jacob married Rachel and Leah, who were sisters. But it says elsewhere in the Torah, like, do not marry a sister, like a woman and a sister. So it's a total prohibition. But this was before the Torah was given, so like they weren't obligated in the actual Torah law. There was different. There was like a different kind of law at the time.
Well, let's just agree to disagree.
All right. So do Karaites, is there any prohibition for them to marry non-Jewish women, like a Christian woman or something? Like that's fine.
We're not supposed to marry from the specific nations that God himself commanded us not to marry. So obviously I'm not going to marry a Perizzite, a Hittite, a Moabite. I forget what the other ites are, but some
what about other nations that aren't mentioned, just like American, like Russian, or a Russian or American, like a Christian or something, or an Indian?
Well, I mean, here's the funny part. My dad married a Mexican lapsed Catholic woman, so I'm according to rabbinic Judaism, me and my siblings would not be considered Jews, but the Karaite community welcomes us and accepts us as members of the Karaite community. So we're still Jews.
All right. I hear. What about conversions, if I may ask? I'm just asking by curiosity, by the way. Hopefully you don't mind.
Okay, this is the weird part because conversions are kind of a new phenomenon for the Karaite community. Like 1985 new.
That's pretty new. That's pretty new.
Yeah. It used to be like back in the day, if somebody wanted to practice the Karaite lifestyle or become Karaite, we would marry Rabbinite women. So my grandfather married a Rabbinite woman, my grandmother, and she grew up in a Chabad Lubavitch family. So
that's cool. That's cool.
So it's a weird. Oh, sorry.
Do they accept converts though? If someone if someone's not born Jewish, but according to the Karaite tradition, can someone who's like a Mexican or a black person or like Japanese, can they become Jewish through a certain ritual or no?
Yes, they can. And I think Torah does give us grounds. Like, for the Passover meal, or the Pesach meal, it does say that if foreigners are allowed to partake of the Passover meal on the condition that the males are circumcised. And I think there are other things too that... Oh, sorry. Go on.
No, go ahead. I thought you were done.
And I think we also cite Ruth, 1:16. Your God is my God, your ways are my ways. And after a brief study period, then the community will just gather together and the convert would recite Ruth 1:16, if I remember correctly.
So a male convert, they get circumcised. There's no mikveh involved?
There should be.
So you guys do accept mikveh. Okay. With like rainwater, etc. and all that.
Yeah.
Okay. No, because that's in the Talmud. It talks about rainwater. But I was wondering. Okay.
No, I thought, mikvot are also in Torah, though.
Yeah, the concept of mikveh, but it doesn't say what kind of water. It could just be, maybe it's water just like that you pour. I mean, can the water be like in barrels? Can you put the water like in tubs and then pour the water from the tub to the mikveh, or does it have to be just rainwater?
I'm gonna have to review that one more time and get back to you on that, because I know there are verses about mikvot.
There's mikvahs, but I don't think it says rainwater.
I think it says running water, though, right?
Running water. Yeah, but I mean, what if the water was put in a barrel and then it was poured back? Is that still valid?
I don't have an answer for you for that right now. I'm just being honest.
All right, I noticed that. And the other thing that we do conversions is that it has to be like by a based in of 3 rabbis who keep the Torah. But do you guys have the concept of 3 rabbis as a based in or no?
I mean, we don't have rabbanim per se. We have chachamim, and like I said, I'm not a convert myself, so I don't know what the process fully is like. But I understand, from those 2 verses alone, we have a general understanding of how the conversion is supposed to look like. A general understanding.
Interesting. Yeah, that's something I was wondering about. Because one of the concerns we have with reform and conservative conversions is that they do some of the things, but the rabbis that they use to do it are not considered valid rabbis because they don't accept
all the laws, etc. So like if someone converts according to conservative conversion, then we don't consider them to be Jewish at all, just because of the status of the people who did it. So of the judges who were involved. So what? Just I was wondering how you guys did that way. Sounds good.
I'm just being honest with you. I don't have all the answers. I'm not Chachamim. I just know what I know, and I don't know what I don't know.
All right, that's all good. I'd like to talk to one of the Chachamim one day, if you ever know him. But yeah.
Daniel?
Yeah.
You got a question?
Yeah, what would be the Karaite view of Esther 8 and verse 17?
Esther 8, verse 7.
We got these references we have to actually look up. Yeah.
I'm just flipping through my Tanakh right now, so hold on.
Esther 8. Let's see. Esther 8. I'm guessing it says something about rabbis. And in every province and in every city, wherever the king's order has edict reached, there was joy and gladness of Jews, a banquet and festive day. And many of the people of the land became Jews because the fear of the Jews was upon them.
Oh, yeah, that was another one of the verses we went over. Schnap.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's also foundation for conversion.
Yeah, that's one of the scriptural. But it doesn't say how they became Jews.
It's just they became Jews.
Yeah, it doesn't say what they did to become Jews. I mean, so like questions like these, I'm just like say like that's like one of the reasons why, like the Talmud exists, because it says things happen. There's certain laws, but then it doesn't say how the laws work. And if the laws are just up to interpretation by anyone, then it wouldn't really have any effect, essentially.
I mean, what we have, though, and I guess this is the best way I can describe it, is that the written Torah is codified law, like a constitution, and the Talmud and the Mishnah, the Gemara, all that good stuff is the common law. You know, rulings of courts, rulings of rabbis. And obviously, would that be a fair assessment?
Partially. So the Maimonides does mention that partially, but there's a few different parts of it. One part is the main section. One of the sections of the Talmud are laws that that Moses himself heard from the Creator. So the Creator actually told him the written verse, and then he told him at the same time what the explanation of that verse is. That's called a halacha l'Moshe Sinai, a law that was given to Moshe directly at Mount Sinai. And other laws are laws that were that the Creator said, but they were left up to interpretation, and the Creator himself told the court to decide what the law is based on their own understanding, and then whatever they decide becomes a Torah law. And a third category are laws that the Creator are laws that the court made on their own after the Creator gave them the authority to decide on the Torah law. But these are laws that the court made not as Torah laws, but as decrees to protect people and help people keep the law. So, like, for example, like the Torah says not to eat meat and milk together, that are cooked together. It says not to cook meat and milk together and eat it if it's cooked in a hot way. But what if you just mix milk and meat that are cold? Can you eat them together that are cold? Or can you eat bird meat with milk? Or is it only referring to cow or goat meat? So these are decrees by the rabbis, that the rabbis made them not part of Torah law, but these are outside of Torah law. The rabbis made them as a decree so people don't get mixed up. They said, the Torah says not to eat meat and milk only if it's cooked together, if they're hot. But if they're just mixed together to be cold, even then the rabbi said not to eat it. So things like that are like rabbinic decrees. So those are the three categories of laws that make it the Talmud. Either Moses got them, or the court decided what the law of the Torah means based on certain rules that the Creator told Moses and based on the Creator's approval. And the third type are the laws that the court made on their own to protect people from the Torah laws. And those are the three laws of the Talmud, essentially.
So, I hate to be technical, but the actual verses say, "Thou shalt not boil a baby goat in the milk of its own mother." That doesn't say you can't mix meat and dairy together. So my Karaite self would be...
Moshe Sinai is one of the laws that were given to Moshe at Mount Sinai directly was that the verse is talking about not only a goat, but also just any small animal. I mean, the word gedi does not necessarily mean goat. Only gedi izim means a goat, but gedi itself just means any kind of small animal. It really means like any.
I could make the argument that it could translate ultimately to kid, which is still a baby goat.
So how do you know what the translation is? I mean, every time it means goat, it's only talking about gedi izim. But when it talks about just the word gedi, how do you know what it means?
Let me look at the Hebrew one more time.
A quick question.
Yeah.
Is the Talmud the only literature that has these details in it?
What details?
The details of like where you're saying you don't know how they converted, but those details can be found in like the Talmud and how you're supposed to go about doing it.
The only primary source that has it. Everything else is just explaining the Talmud. There's no other sources that explain how they became Jews. Nothing, and not only that, but every commandment, everything in the Torah, every commandment, it never explains how the commandment is done in detail in the written Torah. It just says a general idea. Like even do not steal. There's a lot of details of what does it mean to not steal. I mean, how does someone acquire property? What about lost objects? So things like that. Like literally everything. The only explanation for it, the only place it's found is in the Talmud, basically.
Okay.
Yeah, that's one of the proofs that people used to use against Karaite Judaism back in the day, because there's no they claim to only follow the written word, but there's no other explanation for what the written word means other than the Talmud. But then the Karaite, they have their own explanation that they add, but it's not based. They don't claim that it's based on like Moses from Sinai. They just claim it's based on what they feel it means. So that's one of the refutations that like the Rambam, the Maimonides brings for Karaites. But whatever, I'm just sharing. Oh yeah, so. Behold, I send the angel before you to guard you on the way and to bring you to the land that I've prepared. The definitions. Young male goat. Yeah, what? That's a dictionary, but what's the source of that dictionary? How do they know where that's from?
It's from Shemot 23:19.
Let me bring that up. Yeah, he's referencing the verse that says, "Do not cook a kid in its mother's milk." But I was telling him that the word that it uses, it does not necessarily mean baby goat. It just means a small animal. But then when that word does mean baby goat, it specifies gedi izim, a small animal of the goats. So that's the so wait, Shemot 22, you said?
23:19.
Okay, one second.
The way I view it, though, because of my limited Hebrew understanding, it would still translate to kid, a baby goat.
All right, I hear it. So yeah, in 23:19 it says, "The choicest of the first fruits of your soil you shall bring to the house of the Lord. You shall not cook a kid in its mother's milk." Yeah, so that again, that's the discussion that we're talking about. It says, yeah. I mean, Rashi says, "Those shall do not cook a kid, even a cow and a sheep." It is included in the word gedi. So I'm not sure where Safaria got the explanation from. I know Rashi, which we believe from the Talmud, says that the word gedi also includes a cow and a sheep, because the word gedi only means a small child or a soft offspring, like what's the word? A rach, like a gentle offspring of something. I don't know why. Yeah.
Still technically a Rashi translation, though.
But it says, Rashi himself also proves it. It says, because, well, how do we know this? Because we see many places in the Torah where it says the word gedi, but it needs to explain after it, gedi izim, the small animal of goats. For example, in Genesis 38, it says, I shall send gedi izim, I shall send gedi that are goats. So if gedi only means goats, then it would not need to say the word goats after it. It would be saying, I will send to you goats, which wouldn't make any sense. So for the fact that the other verses have to specify a gedi, which is izim, then that means that just the word gedi itself cannot mean goats. So it's proven from the verses itself.
I'll just have to agree to disagree on that one.
All right, I hear. Are you familiar with Genesis 38?
Bereshit 38?
Yeah. because that's the source that Rashi brings. Rashi is an explanation, but he's also, based on the verses, he also explains it. Genesis.
What I would give
I think that's the verse. I'm not sure what it is. But.
glass of whiskey with that guy.
What was that?
What I would give to have a glass of whiskey with that guy, just to pick his brain.
Whiskey?
Yep.
Nice.
I know he was a winemaker.
Interesting.
What? I like whiskey.
Yeah, it's a free country. You get what you pay for.
What verse did you say? 38?
I'm trying to find the verse. It didn't say the verse in Rashi. I'll have to search for it. Oh, verse 17. 38:17.
Okay. He replied, I will send a kid from my flock, but she said, you must leave a pledge until you have sent it.
This is talking about when Judah was paying Tamar for having relations with her. But it says, what does it say in the Hebrew?
A kid. In the Hebrew.
No, what does it say in the Hebrew?
Gedi
Izim. So it has to specify, if the word Gedi itself meant baby goat, then when the verse is saying I will send to you a baby goat, it could have just said the word Gedi. But the fact that it added the word Izim, which means a Gedi of goats, means that just the word Gedi has to mean something else. It can't mean just goats exclusively.
Hey, I'd ask you real quick. Do you follow? Well, I know he passed away, but do you follow Rabbi Kaduri?
Never heard of him.
Okay, I think it was the guy who, on his deathbed, he kind of like gave a note saying that he told him not to open it, but until he passed away. But he gave a note saying that the Messiah's or the Mashiach's name was Yehoshua.
I never heard of that person, so I don't know. But in Judaism, we definitely believe that the Messiah has not arrived yet. I mean, in Chabad, it's actually debatable because a lot of people in Chabad say that the Rebbe was the Messiah. So I don't really agree with that necessarily. However, they say he's going to come. The Chabad also kind of believes in like a second coming as well for the Rebbe. There's a lot of dispute. Some people say the Rebbe never passed away, so it's not really a second coming. It's just the first coming. Some people say that even though they buried him, but he wasn't really buried, he like escaped or something, and they buried an empty casket. There's a lot of different things people say. People say a lot of different things.
Are you one of those?
No.
Okay. I think Gadim Idzim, but correct me if I'm wrong, but Idzim, isn't that female goat?
Izim? No. Izim is a masculine. Because it has an im at the end. Zim is masculine.
I need to go back to Hebrew school.
Yeah. So that's one of the proofs that Rashi brings, that the word Gedi has to mean other stuff. Because if Gedi only meant small goat, then Judah would not have needed to say, I will send you a Gedi, which is easy. And he could have just said Gedi. And there's two other verses he brings in that same chapter, essentially in Genesis 38, throughout the story, where it talks about Tamar like asking like who does this belong to, etc. It mentions the same thing two other times, where it says Gedi Izim. But if Gedi itself meant go, then it wouldn't have even say that.
I don't know. This is like far off topic, but
Yeah, go ahead. Anything. Nothing's off topic.
What's the Jewish perspective or the Jewish understanding of the new covenant?
Writings. Are you referring to the verses that talk about like the new heart, etc., stuff like that?
Yeah, like in I think it's Jeremiah 31, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if I remember correctly, when it talks about a new covenant, Jeremiah said that it would be a new covenant with Yehuda, with the tribe of Judah.
Yeah, it said the tribe of Judah in the house of Israel.
I meant 31. Which part of 31?
Verse 31, I believe. It's 31 and 31.
Verse 31?
Yeah.
Okay, one second.
Jeremiah was a bulldog.
No, behold, days are coming. No, I think this is talking about the Messiah. No. Wait. Days are coming. I will form a covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah, a new covenant. I think it's talking about the future time of the tribes getting back together. The 10 tribes will reunite with the tribe of Judah, and there'll be like one kingdom. I'm pretty sure in the future, in the Messianic era. I thought that's what it's talking about.
Okay,
Covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah, who are two different things, two different houses. I'm pretty sure that's what it means.
Is this the one with the sticks and joining together?
yeah, that's Ezekiel 37, I believe.
Yeah, that's about. No, yeah, it's similar. Not like the covenant that I formed with their forefathers. For this is the covenant that I will form with the house of Israel. After those days, I will place my law in their midst, and I will inscribe it upon their hearts, and I will be their God, and they shall be my people. And no longer shall one teach his neighbor, or shall one teach his brother, saying, Know thy Lord, for they shall all know me, from the smallest to the greatest, for I will forgive their iniquity and their sin. Yeah, this is talking about the Messianic era, when there's going to be like the tribes are going to be reunited, because there were two different kingdoms. But now there's going to be like a new covenant, and then that covenant will also cause like a bunch of like new like in depth. I mean, it does say in a place. It does say one of the verses. I'm not sure where exactly that it says there's going to be like a new Torah will give out for me. But in the commentaries it explains that there's going to be like a new depth of the Torah, similar to how it says there's going to be a new heavens and a new earth. It doesn't mean that the old heavens and earth are going to be destroyed, but it means like there's going to be like a renewal of the heavens and earth. There's going to be like new depth within the heavens and earth. So similar idea, like the new Torah is like a new depth of the Torah, like greater understanding of the same Torah.
And would you guys consider the Karaites to be kind of like a northern kingdom, House of Israel, or would y'all consider?
No. That's Shimronim. Samaritans are the northern kingdom.
According to some opinion. I mean, some people say we don't know. Some people say that the tribes were like hidden in like this other like part of the world that no one has ever discovered. Even nowadays, it's still. I mean, according to most people, they say they've never been discovered until Messiah comes. Even with all the geography today, they still have not been discovered. I mean, according to many people,
well, I mean, we do have organizations dedicated to looking for them, and I mean, they literally Beta Yisrael, the Ethiopian Jews, claimed descent of the house of Dan, and then we found, or at least people have claimed, we found B'nai Menashe, which was on the eastern part of India. Don't ask me how they got there. There's an interesting documentary you can watch on YouTube for free, and it's called Finding the Lost Tribes. And it's this one guy called Shimcha, I forget his last name, but he's an archaeologist, and he documents like a trip of like locating these lost tribes, or who he suspects.
By like rabbis and stuff, or just some guy saying stuff?
There's a rabbi that's organizing like this project. It's called Shavuot Israel, I think. I can't remember, but it's in the. If I find the documentary, I'll send you the link.
Yeah, because it depends like where it comes from. Because if it's like a conservative or a Reform Jew, then it's probably not valid. So I just don't know who wrote it.
I think this guy is Orthodox. The guy that's leading this project.
All right, interesting. You never know. We're going to have the tribes, but in the meantime, we'll see.
Are those Limba tribe members who carry the Cohen gene? Are they accepted, or do they have to go through like a conversion process, even though they hold like oral history and like traditions from back then?
I'm not aware. I don't know. I think it depends. In general, in order to be Jewish, their mother has to be Jewish, or they converted. And in order for their mother to be Jewish, the same rules apply all the way back to the Jewish people of Mount Sinai. So usually if people are like around like a place where there's like rabbis of the Talmud, then the rabbis would verify. And if people like would get married, for example, then there's certain like marriage documents that were verified by the rabbis, and these rabbis would like verify the lineage. So if people have been living around like the rabbinic Judaism, then they can be pretty sure of the lineage because they have documents that the rabbis who made the documents would not have written them if they hadn't have verified the lineage, and it only has to go back like a couple thousand years, back to the temple times, and then in the temple times, the courts at that time would verify everyone. So I mean, if someone has been living without like the rabbis around them, then it's hard to know like what their lineage is essentially. So I'm not sure if they have to get. I think it depends if they're able to show. I'm not sure.
Even if they have like the Cohen marker or the Cohen haplotype.
The what?
The Cohen, I think it's Cohen. It might be K in your language.
There are genetic markers that can identify who's Kohen, and that goes through patrilineal lines.
Yeah, but according to Judaism, those aren't considered at least according to the rabbinic Judaism, whatever that, like our Judaism, DNA does not prove someone is Jewish, because maybe if someone's father is Jewish, then they could have Jewish DNA, but if their mother is not Jewish, then it wouldn't apply. So it wouldn't prove anything according to.
But wouldn't that be pushing away like somebody of the same stock or the same seed?
I mean, it's not about the same seed, because people could have the same similar DNA, but they're not Jewish if their mother is not Jewish.
I mean, Beta Yisrael are considered kosher for Aliyah, and they go by the patrilineal line as well as our
the modern day Israel laws are not accepted by like Orthodox Judaism.
But the Rabbanut made rulings on them.
All right, I'm saying if someone's, I don't know what to tell you. I'm just saying like the standard of like someone's father being Jewish and they're Jewish is not accepted according to the rabbinic Judaism.
I get that. But I'm just saying that the Rabbanut made a recent ruling that both communities are considered kosher for Aliyah, and they are considered Jewish and can marry into rabbinite families.
Okay.
So,
How does Hashem feel about all this? Instead of like the rabbi.
The what?
How would you say? Yeah, how would you? Oh, my bad.
No, sorry, go on. If I knew Hashem, I'd be Hashem. If I knew what he felt, I would be it. His ways are not my ways, but I don't know what he thinks. I just know there are laws that he has given us, and I try to follow them to the best of my ability.
That's fair.
By the way, I sent you the documentary on Moose.
Oh, nice. Check it out one day.
He shows you back.
Cool.
Because I always think about like how would Ezekiel 37 be fulfilled? Because you might have people who don't know, like they might need to stop.
Ezekiel 36.
37?
Yeah, 37. You know where he's gonna bring everybody, like bring all Israel back from the lands that were scattered. Because I know it talks about also that in the lands that they were scattered, that he'll cause them to remember themselves. So it sounds like they'll go through like a process of they don't know who they are, like a Hellenistic process.
Well, it says that when the Messiah comes, first of all the Jews will be miraculously gathered. They would like be lifted up from the ground and just like miraculously travel to Israel. But it's also the Messiah himself, it says, is going to have like miraculous abilities to determine like which tribe the Jews are from, etc. And it says in the Maimonides, lots of kings at the end, that the people will like pass by the Messiah, and then the Messiah will just like be able to like look at them and decide and know automatically what tribe they're from. Yes, talk about the dry bones prophecy.
That prophecy has always freaked me out.
Yeah, I mean, after the Messiah comes, we believe that there's also going to be a resurrection of the dead, in addition to the ingathering of the exiles, which is going to happen after. Like the bodies of the righteous will be literally recreated from the dust, just like the body of Adam, but even greater, basically.
Well, I mean, yeah, even in Isaiah, it does say that the righteous shall wake up to everlasting life, and the wicked shall not see anything.
Brutal.
Could that be like going so far in the future where somebody develops that type of technology, which I think would be Israel?
No, it's not going to be technology. They're going to be miraculously recreated in the dust, just like Adam. And Adam's body was created miraculously.
Right.
So yeah, it's all good.
That's a scary thought.
What? Bodies being recreated?
No, I mean the whole genetic thing, like bones being pulled out and just put in a machine and then a new body pops out.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. Don't try it at home. Nice. Yeah, cool. Is there any other subjects you guys wanted to talk about?
I guess my last question before my phone on the line. When it talks about the chariots of the Most High, do y'all consider them? I believe the Hebrew word is kavod, like big flying things. Like, do y'all consider that? Is it kavod, which is a big heavy flying thing or something like that?
Kavod?
Yeah.
Is it in Ezekiel or in Isaiah?
Yeah. Do y'all consider those things like figurative or like allegories, or is it like literally?
Which one? Where are you referring to?
The chariots of the Most High. When you deal with Ezekiel, he was picked up.
Chapter 1?
I forget which chapter, but I know he was picked up, and it says something about the man clothed in white linen, the Most High, or the Lord instructed him to drop coals from it, and a bunch of stuff that I feel like primitive people, not primitive in a way like, but not so advanced people trying to explain what they seeing. Sounds like they explaining like some type of flying craft or something like that. So I was gonna say.
Sure, Ezekiel chapter 1, verse 4.
Yeah.
We'll keep going.
A tempest was coming from the north, a huge cloud and a flaming fire with a brightness around it. In its midst, it was like the color of the chashmael, which is the word, from the midst of the fire. Chashmael is an angel named Chashmael. Interesting. Okay.
And most armies when being sweeping out of the north of the desert. Yeah, so there's a human being. Oh yeah, this is the trippy part. Very trippy part.
I know a lot of people consider them like a UFO or something like that, which can be like off the wall or something like that.
I mean, according to like the Talmud, this is like one of the secrets of the Torah that says it's only like taught to like some people, etc. But really, like it's explained mainly in Kabbalah as like just all the forms. The forms as like not being like physical forms. Like angels don't have like physical forms. According to the commentary, it's like they're just different kinds of energies that are represented by those forms. And the different stuff it mentions about the chariot corresponds to like different like spiritual energies essentially. And so to the man on the throne corresponds to like the way that the creator like manifests himself with intellect and emotions to create the world. Like when it says he created the man with the image of God, that's referring to like the intellectual image, which is a limitation of itself, but it's like it's not like a physical image. It's just like the way the creator relates to the world, basically. So it's like a bunch of different metaphors of spiritual stuff.
Okay, because I've been hearing like, of course I live in America and I grew up in a Christian church, which I'm not a Christian, but my younger years, and I always heard about like UFOs and things like that. But I wanted to know like the Jewish perspective since you guys read in like the language that it was written in. So.
Yeah, that's according to what the commentators have read. It's all like a metaphorical for different spiritual stuff. I mean, there is a concept of life on other planets that's mentioned briefly in the Talmud. That's not such a big subject.
Okay, can you know exactly where I like to go?
Yeah, the Talmud called Moed Katan. It's only like mentioned very briefly, like one comment at the top of the page, but it's mentioned. It's mentioned that that's the reference to it. I'll spell it out in the comments. Moed Katan 16a. It's mentioned very briefly, and it's also in the commentary called Rabbeinu Hananel. I'll spell that out also, but it's only mentioned literally very briefly.
Um, but there was a talk from the Lubavitcher Rebbe during the moon landing, and he said like, oh, there's like a whole question in the world about living beings that exist on other planets or on the moon, etc. And he says that according to the Talmud, it says that there are. He actually adds like at the end, he added the life. It's like people like life. It says the word is b'nei Adam, even though they're not actually sons of Adam, the first man. But it says it's like some kind of human life. It doesn't really elaborate what it is. But.
Appreciate it, man. I'm gonna check those out.
Yeah,
I know it's far-fetched because I never saw one, or it's hard to believe. I see them on TV too much.
They exist doesn't mean that people saw them. Also, but the context is Judges, chapter 5, where it says the stars came down from the heavens to wage war with the Canaanite nations. There was like in the book of Judges, it talks about the prophet Deborah, and it says the Jewish people were like fighting these Canaanite people, and then they were outnumbered. But then she said, "Oh, if you fight on this day, then there's a heavenly decree that you're going to win." And then as the Jewish people started fighting the Canaanites, and it says like there was part of like the fire from the stars that came down to earth and like burned up the chariots of the Canaanite nations. And this is mentioned in the book of Judges explicitly. But then it says after all that, Devorah says, "Oh, cursed be Meroz, who did not come to help Meroz and its inhabitants." And in the Talmud it says that some people say Meroz was a person, but some people say Meroz was a star, the name of a star. And the Hebrew word for star can also mean planet, but it's like a star. And then it says and then the commentary Beinu Chananel says also the inhabitants are like the inhabitants of that star. So it implies that there's a star with its inhabitants who could have come down to earth to help the Jews, but they didn't. And Deborah cursed them out.
Wait.
Yeah.
I do have a question about that, because if you look at the Song of Devorah, it doesn't mention Yehuda as a tribe that helped out in the battle. It does mention the sons of Gilead, though. I'm just curious why that is.
I don't know. I'm not sure. Meaning, like, what? What's the point? I'm not sure if I understand.
Because, she talks about all the tribes that have donated men. Yehuda is not among them, but Gilead, for some reason, is among one of the tribes mentioned.
Okay. So what's the point?
It's just a point of curiosity.
Like, none of the subject, saying like a different subject, different question.
Different subject. Yeah, I'm sorry. Random question.
I'm not sure. What verse is it? Chapter 5, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
What?
Hold on.
Yeah, it's very briefly mentioned in the Talmud. It's like barely even hinted to. But the Lubavitcher Rebbe one time he said it, that he quoted that part of the Talmud as a proof that there are. And then the Hebrew word Yoshveha, the inhabitants, it says only applies to people like life, not like animal life. But it says that only the earth, the Torah is only given to the earth, and only humans on the earth have free choice, and only they were commanded by the Creator to do stuff. So it's all the answers we have already on earth, so we don't need to go out and searching for anything. But it does mention in the Talmud that such a concept is.
Yeah, it makes it feel like the Sumerian tablets a little bit. I know they got a lot of that stuff in there.
But what?
Like the Anunnaki from other planets, and the Anu and Enki and all that, Enlil and Untapishno, who's supposed to be Noah.
Yeah, it doesn't say they're more advanced than us. It just says that it's some kind of people like life, whatever that means. It says that only we have the Torah. The Torah, the Creator only gave the Torah to Earth, so we have all the answers here and not anywhere else.
I got you. I'm gonna check those out, and I'm gonna check out the video too. I appreciate y'all letting me up and ask questions, and
You take care.
All right, shalom, y'all.
Shalom.
Yeah.
Okay, so Judges Shoftim 5:17.
Let's bring it up. Judges 5. Oh, how did I close it? Let me bring it up again. In fact, this week's Parsha is Shoftim also. So look at that. Gilead abides beyond the Jordan, and Dan, why does he gather into the ships? Asher dwelt at the shore of the seas, and by his breaches he abides. Those are talking about people who did not come to the battle. It says he is beyond the Jordan, and Rashi says he did not come to the battle, and likewise Dan gathered his wealth into ships to try to escape, but they did not come to the battle.
I just, I'm reading all this, and I don't see Yehuda anywhere on here.
I think because Yehuda did fight. The people that it mentioned were people who did not fight. Those are people who were trying to escape. But if it doesn't mention them, that means that they were there, I think. Or actually, I'm not sure. It doesn't mention Yehuda anyway. I mean, does it mention all the tribes, though? It only mentions like a few of the tribes, though.
It mentions
Ephraim. It doesn't mention Manasseh, does it?
Benjamin, Zebulun,
Then Esau.
Reuven.
It doesn't say everyone. It doesn't say Levi. It doesn't say Reuven. I mean, no, it doesn't. It doesn't say Manasseh. I mean, it doesn't mention all the tribes. It's just mentioning
Dan, Asher, Naphtali.
Reuven.
Yeah, you're right. It does mention all the tribes. I don't know. Gilead was kind of confusing to me.
Yeah, the prophets are kind of confusing.
Yeah, when are they never confusing?
Sort of.
Anyway, I'm gonna let you go. I've taken up plenty of your precious time, but thank you for having me on.
Yeah,
and, thank you for not being too judgmental towards me or my minhag.
Yeah, keyword to the mental. Yeah, I guess I.
Okay. Laila tov, achi.
See ya. All right, cool. And I guess maybe we'll end the live with that on a good note while we're having fun. So yeah, it's been fun having you guys. And anyone who's watching right now, if they want to come up real quick, then if not, I guess I'll see you later. See ya. Mashiach comes.